So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself for the Teases audience?
So my name is Ciara Costenoble, and I'm an American living in Paris, France for the past 10 years. I am a global hairstylist and educator. I've been a licensed hairstylist now for 15 years. And I have been a licensed educator here in Paris, but educating kind of overly on the European side and in North America for the past 5 years. And so I focus on diversity. I have a really diverse roster of clientele, celebrity. I focus on special events and fashion and editorial. And I have been a promoter of diversity since the beginning of my career of just, making sure that anybody who walks through the door or any client that I get contacted for, that I'm capable and able to style their hair and also be able to educate about styling all hair textures.
Tell us a little bit about your hair journey. I know you're saying that you've done it for 15 years, but did it start when you were younger that you developed this love for doing hair, or?
Doing hair has always been my love. I grew up in a family of all boys, and my mother, she just learned how to braid only for her grandchildren. So she was not into hair, she had no idea what to do with my hair. So she took me to the salon every Saturday. She didn't understand that it needed to be done. So every Saturday I was in the salon, like a lot of, Black girls, your Saturday morning salons, there all day, basically.
Yes.
I loved it. I loved it. I lived for it. And my mom is the one who encouraged me, because my mom and the woman in the salon, because my mom realized I had a talent. I would come home, and because I was the only girl, I had all these Barbies and all these things. I was so interested in girly stuff, and I didn't have the sisters or cousins to play with. So I would practice on her hair, and I started braiding her hair one day. And she's like, "Who taught you how to braid?" And I was like, "Oh, I watched the girls at the salon." And she's like, "You just watched them and taught yourself how to braid?" And I was like, yeah. And so it happened that way every Saturday, I would try something new on her head. And she was like, "I think you really have a gift. You're capable of, I'm really good at seeing something and being able to figure out how to do it. I just have this is just a gift that God gave me." And so my mom really encouraged me and nurtured that. And when I was 14, I overheard my hairstylist say that she lost her shampoo girl. And I was like, "Oh my God, can I please be your shampoo girl? This is my way in." I begged my way. She's like, "You're still in high school, and my mother was like, "No." And finally, I just harassed them. And my mom said, "Okay, if you keep your grades up, you can come after school and be the shampoo girl." So I started being a shampoo girl at 14 and really worked my way up into eventually being an assistant in the salon. And I was the girl in high school who did everybody's hair. No one who went to school with me, even from elementary, is surprised of what I'm doing. They're like, she was always the girl playing everybody's hair, doing something. I mean, I did my principal's hair. I did my teacher's hair. I did everyone's hair for prom. I was that girl.
Wow.
And cool. And so I realize now, very privileged to grow up, growing up in the DMV. There is a different type of Black society. And so I grew up having a lot of Black teachers, and most of my schools, the principals and vice principals were Black women or Black men. And so it really is thanks to my vice principal, Miss King. And she knew about me doing everyone's hair. And she's reached out to me and said, "Listen, there is a vocational school that's not far from here, and they have a cosmetology course. And I think this would be perfect for you." And because of the way that schooling is set up, kind of in the DMV area, once you get to high school, if you a little bit of an overachiever, you finish school quite early. And so she organized and put into place that after I finished my day at school, then there was a bus that took me to another school, and I went to cosmetology classes while I was in high school, and I still was working in the salon. So I got my salon hours. So everything that's practical, those were counted through the state from the salon. And then I did my theory at this vocational school. And so when I graduated, I had my cosmetology license. I went to college for international marketing, and that's actually how I made it to Paris. It's because my last year I decided to study abroad, and that's how I then kind of never left. But that's how my hair story started. It was always my first love. When I was in college, I worked in very luxury salons, and that's how I helped pay for school and kind of to have money and have an apartment and things. And that's really what got me into more event styling, because working in these salons, I was usually the only Black stylist, and I was usually the only one. This is a very different period and doing hair, where it was very much the protocol of working in a salon. You're a color specialist, you do cutting, it was very like most people who did color didn't do cutting, it was very much everyone had their own lane. And so I was the one who I loved it all, but I really was good at styling. And they didn't have anyone who focused on styling, because before, when you go to salons, the maximum amount of styling you're getting is like, you're getting a blowout, you're getting some rollers, sit up, but you're not getting all the styling and options and things. But because it was an area that was having a lot of special events, my manager came to me and she's like, I think that we would like to have you as our special event hairstylist, so that when we have our high-end clients come in who need someone to come to their place or to have their styling done, then you could be that person. And so that entered me into this world that I knew nothing about, where you're working with stylists and makeup artists and you're coming together with a look specifically for an event. And I loved it. And I was like, this is where I thrive. I really thrive in that creative, artistic, nothing's the same kind of environment, and really working as a team to create a look for your client.
First off, like, props to your principal who knew that you had like this specialty, this, talent, and that she helped you really, achieve that goal, as in going to, cosmetology school and, booking those bus rides to it. That's pretty amazing. Not many people are fortunate to have that.
Miss King is definitely a real one. I'm still in contact with this to this day.
Oh, beautiful. I love that. I come from a family of educators, so.
I love this. Yes, I love, my mom's a teacher, my aunt's a teacher. I come from a family of educators too, which is interesting. Once I got into education, I always said, I'm never going to be a teacher. Everybody's a teacher in my family. And now I'm like, okay, so my second passion actually is teaching. I love it. I live for it. I guess it was my destiny.
Yeah, you just need it in your own lane. You didn't want to do it that way, but you wanted to do it in your, what your talent is, which is great.
Exactly.
And so you touched on it a little bit about how you relocated to Paris, but how did that happen? And how did that transition for you while starting your career? Because you did this in college, correct?
Yes. So transitioning here was what was supposed to just be for a year. I had my visa for a year. I was going to a school and it was in English. So it's an English program, the American Business School here. And so I figured, I would take French classes and I wanted to learn the language, but I figured I would just be here for a year. And the first few months was quite easy because my school helped me with finding an apartment, kind of all of the legalities with the visa and those things. So getting here was actually quite simple, I won't lie. Then once you're here, it's like, oh, like they really speak a whole other language in this country. It's like it hits you. I was not at all really fully prepared for, everything is in French. Like no one really speaks English. I don't understand what's happening. I don't know anyone here. Just like completely thrown off. And, but I ended up staying because I met someone, I fell in love, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to stay. I married him and all that. So I stayed and I started working in a salon. And I was like, oh, this is not going to work for me. Culturally, it's a very different culture when it comes to hair and salon and the way things work here. And it just did not match with the history that I've had with working in salons. And so instantly I said, I think I want to create my own business. I know that I love special events. It's Paris. There has to be enough going on here. I'm sure there are. And so I do what I do, which is I'm a thorough researcher. I love my friends. I'm the friend that everyone calls when like, Ciara can find out anything, because I will sit around researching things for hours. Things that don't even bring anything to my life, like just random knowledge stuff. I'm like, oh, I've been researching salt today, like random. So, but this one pertained to my, where I was trying to grow and be. And so I sat down and I said, okay, I know I can see clearly what type of events and things I want to do. I only want to work in special events. I only want to work in luxury. And I believe it's in Paris. There's enough going on. I don't know. I'm not into that world, but I'm going to research and see the people who have the clients that I want to have. I made a list of photographers. I made a list of makeup artists, event planners, hotels. And I genuinely I walked and went to every single hotel, introducing myself with business cards. I created a website. I contacted every single photographer that was interested, that was in that lane, makeup artists, event planners, and met with them, had a coffee, introduced myself, talked about myself. And within 6 months of doing that networking, I started really getting clients, and I was making enough from freelancing than I was from my actual job, that I was like my marketing job, so I was like, oh, well, I'm letting this go. And so I just went full time and freelance. And listen, it has its ups and downs, but I've been 100% freelancing since 2013.
Wow.
Yeah. And
your first client was like that you worked with doing the events?
The first 2 years of my business, I would say 80% of my clientele were Asians, from Singapore, from Korea. I had a very strong Asian community. I happened to get, there was a photographer who worked with a lot of high priced clients, and they were looking for a stylist. And once again, this is what comes in handy, knowing how to work with all hair textures. He called me. He's like, do you work with Asian hair? I was like, yeah, of course. And so I did that client, and I remember specifically, when I showed up, I could see, like, we both looked at each other.
I'm like, oh, can she do my hair?
There was this pause moment that we as Black women know very well, because that's usually us. It's usually us on that end. So I understood the look, it was such a moment, because it was like, in my mind, I'm like, girl, I know, I've been there, but I'm going to do you right. I'm going to do you right. So I did her hair, and she was thoroughly impressed. And she was like, oh my God, you did so fast. And it was like, great. And so that was kind of opened up the door, because it's kind of the same thing with Black women. Like, you get one Black woman and you know how to do her, if a Black woman's like Germany and she finds somebody who knows how to do her hair, like, all the Black women in Germany are now coming to you. And so this was like for the Asian community. It's like, oh my God, we found someone in Paris, because usually Europeans here do not know how to work with Asian hair. It's like, they don't even try with that. So, you have all this large Asian community who are very much in the fashion world and come to Paris very often and have cultural links to Paris. And so they found me, and they're like, we have this girl. Yes, she's Black, but she does our hair so well. And that just opened the door. And that was genuinely like 80% of my clientele for the first 2 years. Once I did my networking, people would just talk and get my name out there. And then I remember my first celebrity client was Taraji P. Henson. And it was her makeup artist, actually, who left a comment under my Instagram and said, hey, can we chat? So we started DMing, and she's like, listen, I found your Instagram through some hashtags, and Taraji needs a hairstylist. She's coming for a press tour. And I love your work. And I just have a good feeling about you. So could we have a chat? So we had a chat, and she passed my information on to her agent. And one thing that I feel confident about, I don't feel very confident via email, because I know I can come off quite cold via email, because I'm like a straight get to the point kind of person. But
posting, because I'm the same way.
Yeah. But in person, I'm like, if someone has met me through email and then meets me in person, there's genuinely like a disconnect of like, is this the same person? Because I'm such a social, I'm a very nice person in person, but in email, I'm like, okay, I have to go back through my emails. Like, let me add in a little softness here. Like, maybe add a smiley. And so anyway, so her agent called me from California, and she's like, we just want to have a chat with you. And her makeup artist, recommended you, but we see you haven't really worked with celebrities before, and so we just kind of have a chat. So we had a wonderful conversation, and she's like, listen, you got the job, we're good to go. And so I did a press tour while she was here, and we had a fabulous time with the team. And then she came back from Monaco, and I worked with her again. And then from that point on, it was just kind of word of mouth of like, hey, we have this Black American who is, in Europe. And if you have clients, you have things coming your way. And it's just kind of been a snowball effect since then.
Wow, that's incredible. The power of networking and, people word of mouth kind of thing.
It really is.
So I guess you already touched upon this already, so I guess I could skip that one. But going back to learning about different terms that was in Paris when you moved to Paris, how was that, like, adjusting to that and learning those different terms that are different there that they are here? Like, could you share a little bit more about that?
Well, yeah, I think that some of the terms, well, first of all, when it comes to hair terminology, it means just completely different language. It's just, I speak the language fluently, but it's not at all kind of a copy and paste. This is what we say in English, and then now you copy and translate it. It's not
Right.
at all.
That's
The
right.
Google Translate is not going to help you in that department. So there is the language part that I've now mastered, but I think also there's a cultural identity that's very different. French women in general French women, there's not a culture of connected to beauty the way that we as Americans are connected to beauty. And when I say that, I mean, as in general, not just as Black women, but just women in general, we visit the salon 10 times more than French women visit the salon. French women go to the salon maybe once or twice a year. They're only really going by necessity. It's like, I'm going to get a haircut. I'm going to get this specific treatment done, and that's it. Where as Americans, we are very much connected to the beauty world of, I want to feel good. I'm going to go to the salon. I want to try something different. I'm going to go to the salon. And there's not that cultural identity connected to the salon.
Interesting.
So that was very much a different hurdle. Also, as well, it was very interesting to me. This is something I picked up on first, is I would notice that when I would meet different people and we would get to chatting and talking and things in different environments, and they would ask, what do you do? And I would say, I'm a hairstylist. I noticed that there was kind of like a drop in the tone of their voice, and more of a negative type of sense. And I was a little confused about that, because I was like, So with some of my French friends and some of the people in the industry, I asked about it, and I got a better understanding that French society kind of looked down on hairstylists, because here, to become a hairstylist, you don't actually even have to have a high school diploma. So it's kind of looked upon as one of those things that you do when you're not really smart, or, it's not viewed as an artistic field. It really is viewed more so as that's not something that's intellectual. And so people would look down on someone who says they're hairstylist, from a French standpoint. So those things are different, where, you think about the UK, you think about, even in the States, where hairstylist is in an artistic type of field. And it's not really considered an artistic field. It's starting to change now, because I think that with social media, people are seeing the capabilities that you can do with so many things now, like look what you can do just with TikTok. So it's starting to change, but that was a big shake in the beginning that I was just like, kind of hurt my feelings. Like, I'm smart, and it takes real work. Like, you can't do what I do.
Yeah, I'm actually really shocked that would be considered something that is, something that people wouldn't want to do. And I just assume that they always go to the hair salon, and clearly that's not the case out there.
No, you would think so, because there are so hair salons on every corner of every street.
Oh.
There are tons of hair salons, but they're not very regular salons. So I'm always like, how does this work business wise? Right. Unless you have some kind of specialty. Like, what's happening?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I have to learn a little bit more about that. So you're a big advocate for diversifying hair education. What inspired you to want to push for better education for all hair textures?
To be honest, being forgotten. The feeling of being forgotten, and watching so many because textured hair is not something that's only connected to the Black community. Textured hair is something that's connected to so many communities. It's connected to the French community as well. They don't all have straight hair. Most of them actually do have some sort of texture. Textured hair is actually the largest demographic of hair types, in the world. So really, it stemmed from a place of not being seen and being forgotten, and seeing so many brands that are speaking to diversity in the US, and these are global brands, but they haven't taken it globally. And so seeing that, it's like, okay, Black people don't only exist in the US. Textured hair people don't only exist in the US. How are you a global brand? And yet, when you take it outside, and there's a demographic here as well, and you're not serving that demographic. And so it really came from a place of just not being seen, and seeing so many people not being seen. And I'm an emotional person, so I will say, genuinely, at first, it came from a space of feeling hurt and then thinking, okay, this is something that needs to be spoken about. And then what can I do? I know that I did the work for myself. I grew up, I did my work in a Black salon, a very traditional Black salon. So, and then but I went to cosmetology school, and obviously it's a more mixed environment. And so now I'm working with Caucasian hair. And then I worked in luxury high-end salons. And so I did have Black clients, but I also had clients from everywhere. And so I trained myself. I took extra classes, I went to extra classes outside of my cosmetology degree, just to make sure that I could take any client that walked through the door. I did the work. I could have easily just stuck to what I know. And so it's a testament that it's possible. If someone with textured hair can have a full clientele of Asians and have taught herself how to properly take care of Asian hair and how to style that hair, it should be something that everyone should have access to. And it should be something that's really demanded by these high-end brands. So it came from that place. And then secondarily, it was a space of anger, to be honest, because I did the work of reaching out to brands that were global and that were doing some of the work in the States and Canada and, sometimes in the UK, and seeing that work was not being done at all in Europe, and how there's a door, it stops, it will stop. And after reaching out to several brands and really them basically clearly saying that there's not a need for that. And that goes right back to a whole demographic being forgotten, being erased, being not seen, and for whiteness being the epitome of beauty standard. And I understand that when people look at Europe, they think that Europe is a white continent, but it actually isn't. There isn't a street you can walk. You can't walk 15 minutes in Paris and not see someone who's non-white. It, like, genuinely, textured hair is everywhere. And it's a beautiful, diverse country. And for brands to decide to forget a demographic that I'm a part of is a problem for me. And so that's why I felt it was something that needs to be spoken about more. And that's really what pushed me to go back to school. I'm like, okay, what can I do? I'm an educator. I've educated on so many stages. I've educated internationally. I've educated, in both languages, French and English, and I'm doing the work. But me teaching one class as one person is actually not enough to make enough of a change. It's just not. So how can I push this forward? What can I do on my end? And it is a passion for me. So I took a moment and stepped back. And I would say, COVID really helped with that as well, because I had time to kind of really be alone and with my thoughts. And I said, I think that it really is the education departments because these are the ones that are making the decisions. These are the ones that are really creating and molding the brands, their education. It comes from the top and trickles down. But what happens is at the top, there aren't any people that look like me. There aren't people who actually have any experience. Most of these people have zero experience within the beauty world. They're just suits. Just went to business school. They don't have really a connection to the demographic. And so that's why we see this huge disconnect. And to make real change is to really change the infrastructure, to change the curriculums that are built. And that takes more than just being a hairstylist. So I went back to school. And I went back to school in French, which was very much a challenge. It sounded like a great idea in the beginning. And then as I was going through it, I was like, this is hard. This is really hard. This is hard. But I did it. I went back to school for instructional design because I said there has to be a degree that is really focused on education departments and curriculum building and all the things that I really wanted to be able to hone into. And instructional design, which basically just means curriculum building for educational departments. And so I went back to school for that and recently graduated with the goal and the intent of being the person in the room who can help to change the vision, even if it's just one brand. It starts with one. If it's just one brand. I mean, look, you think about Fenty and, what she did. It's just one brand. But when she came out with all those different foundations and things, it forced all the other brands to follow suit, So even if it's just me being hired or me consulting and working with just one brand, seeing that change, I really believe that it will trickle and that's where it starts. And so that's kind of Sorry, I got all serious, but I'm like, it's very important to me.
No, this was so interesting to learn about. And so how has the experience been since you've like taken, all these classes and graduating and now starting to really put your foot in and trying to make a difference? How has that journey been for you personally in on an emotional way?
In an emotional sense, it has been a lot of ups and downs because it does mean, honestly, accepting the fact that it will be a transition from no longer really just only being a hairstylist and kind of slowly letting go of being a hairstylist and moving more into more corporate and consulting type of position, which is the goal. And I'm okay with that. But that is a transition because I've been doing this for so long and there's a certain level of comfort within that. I won't lie. It's been challenging to be heard by brands because everyone is able to write an Instagram post and talk about, or to write, a brand messaging post about diversity, inclusivity, or, we've hired this one person. But it's a lot easier when, to actually make real change and to review, what I'm asking brands to do is really to review their educational interfaces, to like starting from scratch and let's reviewing it and making sure that from the bottom up that it is really respecting DEI. And that is a lot of work, I realize, but it is a work that needs to be done. And so it has been challenging to have my voice heard, but it's a beginning process. I just recently graduated. I'm still, got a lot of gun ho here. And I will say though, that every time that I kind of start to feel like, a bit sad and kind of a little defeated, there has been a Black woman in my corner who has networked and shared contacts. I mean, even yesterday, there was a brand that I had reached out to, and I was speaking to one of my mentors in the States, who's a Black woman, who works in beauty education. And she's like, I know her. I know the hiring manager. I know this person. Let me contact her. And, instantly it was like, okay. And a connection was made. And so that's also happened, through other connections that I've had with Black women who have been like, I really love your passion. You're right. Let me connect you with this person. Or, what, let me look at your CV and see how I can help you. Oh, what, let me see how I can help you, give you advice. And even just sitting down and having a conversation with me and telling me the interworkings of the corporations of these brands. So it has been a lot of beautiful moments with Black women pouring back into me. And there have been brands that have reached out and, that I'm having conversations with. I believe that this is the year where the change is going to come. And I'm okay with starting small. I'm very much okay. I don't have to be at the top of the mountain yet. I'd rather start small and then it be something that really lasts and there's longevity rather than building fast and then it falls just as fast as well.
Yeah, true. Well, I appreciate all the work that you're doing. Like I'm thinking about how, slow the transition was when it came to like when a whole bunch of Black women started going natural and how, a lot of companies had to start embracing it. And it took a long time for them to just be like, okay, so we can't keep pushing this one product on Black women. We're going to have to start diversifying our brands into different products that, adapt for Black hair. So I think, it's just going to take some time, but I really appreciate that you're really pushing for this because that's what needs to be done all over.
Yeah, I'm ready to see the change. I'm ready to see it. It's going to take time, but listen, I will say that I feel that the States is ahead, the States is usually ahead of the game, to be honest. The States is ahead of the game when it comes to kind of this movement of really moving forward, enforcing brands to have like a certain accountability. But like I said, there is kind of this invisible door that stops once you get out of, Canada and the States, sometimes the UK, depends. And that once, the same brands that exist here, they're not at all selling the same products. They're not, I'll just name, even going straight to it, like big names, L'Oreal has a very huge Mizani presence in the States and it's like nowhere in France. And L'Oreal is French based. So it's, so you really see this change of reaching a demographic, but only where it has been, where they're kind of forced, because the state, as Americans, we kind of put them into a place of you're forced because other brands are doing it. This is what we want. We're gonna call you out. We're gonna tweet about it. We're gonna make a big deal. We're gonna make a fuss about it. And, they're kind of forced to do it. But what it feels like it's saying, by it not being a movement that's taken globally within the company, it feels like it's saying we're only doing it when we're forced to do it. It's not coming from a place of we think it's the right thing to do it. Because if it's the right thing, you make that really fully a global message, and you review your global brand instead of only doing it in this one demographic. And that's some of the things that I'm trying to help these brands to see in a straightforward, but in a loving way as well. As in, listen, we understand the mistakes have been made, but where can we go now? How can we move forward?
And now with this conversation, it made me realize, like, if you go to another country, can you even get the same hair products that we have in the States?
No, there are some places that are like a few boutiques that are Black owned that have opened up, and they import some. It's more expensive, obviously, but they import products from the States, from the UK. There are a few French-based brands that actually there are 2 or 3 that have started in the past, like during this COVID time, that have come out and that are focused towards textured hair and that are, French-based. So we're seeing some changes in things, but like I tell my family, things that we take for granted. We can go into a Target, a Target, what I miss. We can go into a Target, we can go into a Walmart, we can even go into a Walgreens. And if you really need conditioner at the end of the day, or you need something for your hair, like you can get it as a Black woman. Yeah. And those are not things that we have access to. You can't go to the grocery store. Shea Moisture reached out to me, I believe it was in December. They have now put a contract with Monoprix. Monoprix is like the Target of France, okay? And they have a contract where they in select Monoprix that they are now have their products, but that's as of December 2021. How long has it been for us in the States being able to go to a Walgreens, a Target, or a Walmart and be able to get products for our hair without an issue? Obviously, do we want better products? But at least we have products. And here, if you have textured hair, you can't even go to the grocery store and get something. You can only go, like, for example, before I could only go to one small area, one boutique where I could get something, or one website and then have it delivered. And so, and even then, it's still, I went to the grocery store yesterday, and every time I go to the grocery store or I'm anywhere, I always pop in the grocery store and just like go through the aisles and see like the beauty, like see what they have for beauty products. And there is usually nothing for us. So it's very much behind, but there are just as many Black women. There are just as many, the demographic is here. France colonized half Africa. So, Black people are here.
In France. I don't know if
there are a lot of Black people in France. There are a lot of Arabic community in France. There are a lot of, Latin community in France. There are a lot of, Israelis, there are Armenians. I mean, these are all people who majority of their cultural background, they have textured hair. And so it's a large demographic of textured hair here. And it's just not being fed and seen. There's so many areas and layers to it. It comes obviously with schooling. If in order to get your license, it was obligated that you had to have some kind of understanding of textured hair, and doing that in order to get your license, that would change things. The UK just passed a law for that, which things are changing there. But there's so many layers to be attacked to make change. But I think from my point of view as a stylist, I kind of am focused on both, but I'm really more so focused on, these brands are hiring a lot of these stylists, and these stylists who are, becoming like the names and the faces for these brands, and they only do European hair. And it's like, well, how is that matching? Why are brands under L'Oreal? Why are brands under Estee Lauder? Why are brands under these big global companies still hiring stylists that don't really match the messaging that they're putting out on their social medias? If your messaging is saying, we have created brands that are for all, we're for diversity, we're for inclusivity, then your artists have to match that. If your artists don't have the capabilities to be able to walk into a room and be able to even shampoo, texture a Black woman's hair, if they're going onto these shoots and they're putting baby hairs and they're doing braids and they're doing all of these things with no historical reference, with no understanding, no underlining, and you're not also asking that from them, then you play a role, because these are the people that you have hired, so they now represent you. So I'm more so from that side point of view, because that's the change that I think, like I said, it trickles down. It starts from the top and then trickles down.
That blows my mind, and something that shows you my privilege of being like, oh, it must be like that everywhere. You can get your own hair products.
No, it is a struggle. It's very much a struggle.
What advice would you give your younger self that you know now that you wish you knew before?
Okay. Well, a few things. I would tell her to stop obsessing about what she actually looks like. I think that now, being older, I realize how much time we waste as young women focused on our beauty. I mean, I love beauty. I live in a world, I love beauty, but I'm saying, the superficial side of beauty, a certain weight, a certain, certain features, certain hair texture, like spending so much time dedicated to that. I would definitely tell her to X all of that. Okay. It's not important. It's a lot less. Do the work and focus on, inner beauty and accepting, yourself rather than trying to fit the mold. So that would be number one thing. Number two, save your money. Stop spending all your money on random things, girls. Spend your money on traveling. Okay. Save your coins and stop buying so much random things that you'll never ever see again. Spend your money on travel, spend your money on experiences, spend your money on people you love, spend your money on those things. Those are things you'll never regret. And those will be the most precious memories that you'll have. And then thirdly, I would tell her to, this is really speaking to my younger self. I would tell her, get your consistency, your lack of consistency under control now. Like, because if you don't get it now, you're just going to continue in your 30s not being consistent. It will be the thing that's going to work you for the rest of your life. Consistency.
Well,
I'm still working on that one. I'm still working on it.
I was going to say it probably worked out still, but hey,
still worked out. But I could have gotten a lot further in life, I think, if I had worked through that in my 20s.
I totally get that. Do you have a dream client that you haven't worked with yet that you really hope just maybe?
Yes. I feel like in my head that Tracee Ellis Ross is my friend in my head.
Even the hair. See the hair influence right now.
That's my girl. Since Girlfriend days, I rewatch Girlfriends, the whole all of it.
Hair.
Twice a year. Okay, twice a year. That is my show. I'm so happy they finally put it on Netflix, so now it makes it easier for me to watch it. Because I was going on all the little shows and you're missing episodes, and it's not clear. So she has been my friend for such a long time, and obviously she's very much into natural hair and texture, and she's also really an interesting client because she's not afraid to try new things, and she's very fashion forward, and she just seems like someone who is fun. Her and Zendaya. I would love to work with Zendaya as well. I love how I know a few of her hairstylists, so I know that she's very much into the health of hair, which I love clients who are about the health of hair. It's we are really on the same page. And she's also someone who's open to trying so many different hairstyles. She also likes to embrace her natural texture. I would also love to work with Lupita. Okay, now I'm done.
Those are all great people to hope that you do get to work with, because they're all really great and their hairs are always top notch, amazing. Tracee Ellis Ross is probably everyone's favorite go-to of natural hair with the big fro. Even myself, my hair in its natural states, I'm I just want it to look like Tracee Ellis Ross.
You're I'm feeling like my inner Ross is coming out here.
Even with her mom had great hair too.
Yes, it's a family thing. I'm here for it. I'm very much here for it.
Yes. And then what's next for you, Ciara? I know that you have so much going on, but is there anything else that you let us know that you're going to do next? And where can we find you?
Next is, listen, still follow my journey on Instagram. I've been doing a little bit of an Instagram break for the moment, but listen, it's still my platform where I kind of show things. I do believe in balance though. Next is really just honing in. This is the year of focusing pretty much 100% on education. Yes, will I still be styling hair and things? Yes, but I'm transitioning into really focusing on education. And so you'll see me, I'm manifesting now, you'll see me working with brands, either as the head of education, director of education, spokesperson with working with brands to help them diversify their education curriculum. That's what's next for me. And I'm very much excited about it, to be honest.
Can't wait to see that press release when they say that you have now teamed up with,
Yes. The press release, Ciara Costenoble.
Yes. And then my last question is a little off guard, but if I were one of your clients, I know I'm not a celebrity, but if I were your client for a major event, how would you style my hair? I have 4B, 4C hair texture, and it's borderline.
I've been really enjoying some of those younger hairstyles that we kind of used to have as, you were like young teenager, that were kind of, like early 90s. I've really been enjoying making natural versions of those hairstyles. We all kind of had relaxed hair at that point. So It was always a straight hair thing. And I've been really enjoying kind of reimagining some of those early 90s and fun like high school hairstyles, but working with our natural texture and like different versions of that texture. I like to obviously my hair is texture, but I like to kind of play around with the texture and, have it maybe blown out a little bit, stretched out, or, maybe adding a little bit of a looser curl, or maybe even sometimes making a tighter curl, playing around with some version of textured hair with those hairstyles. Like I love even, like the two buns on the top, like the half up, half down. So I would definitely probably play around with those because you have an oval face. And so that means you have the kind of shape hair that you can wear pretty much any hairstyle. You can wear it down, you can wear it up, but I think that would be fun. I feel like there's a little funkiness to you because you got purple braids. That means you're open to a little something different. I used to love me some Gwen Stefani. I still love her actually. But Gwen Stefani, and my mom used to say like, you're the Black version of Gwen Stefani because that was a little quirky. And so, but she very much did a lot of those kind of quirky 90s hairstyles and the platinum blonde thing. And I just love it. I just really love it. And doing those, like translating those into a textured hair moment is really a look. Like I have like a whole album of like Gwen Stefani kind of hairstyles. And I'm like, oh, this would actually look really great with some texture. So that's what I would do.
Oh, Gwen Stefani is another one who I grew up loving as a kid because she was so funky and different. And
yes,
a little bit of, color.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love that. See, we're on the same page.
Aquarius, so I have to be like different all the time for something.
I love to see it. I'm like, I don't have any hair color anymore, but I was the girl who I tried every hair color. I had green hair, I had pink hair, I was blonde, I did purple, I did it all. I did blue, red, all of it.
I'm starting to do a little bit more of the fun colors so my mom doesn't get too scared of that.
It's always that fun. It's always that fun. I was like,
I did gray for a while. When I told her, she was just like, are you sure about that? I was like, Mom, you're going to really love it. I swear. And that's like her favorite color that I do now. So
see, listen, progressive. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Ciara. It's been such a pleasure to talk with you and learn so much about textured hair and the education behind it. And I can't wait to see you out there pushing the good agenda of getting everyone to,
Thank you so much for this moment and listening. And I'm looking forward to it. Listen, if you're ever in Paris, please let me know. I would love to take you for a drink.
Yes, I'm letting you know right now that it's definitely going to happen.
I'm telling you, reach out because when I offer it and extend it, it's coming from the heart. For real.
I love that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And we'll chat soon.
Definitely. Bye.